Well, I'll say the counterculture is not counterculture enough for me. And I've noticed that all the counterculture figures, no offense, the guys who wear black shirts in general, and are telling you how radical they are and dye their hair blue, they all seem like bodyguards for BlackRock to me. And they all seem to be on the side of the defense contractors, and Dick Cheney just endorsed Kamala Harris, and she likes it. And no, I'm serious. And they all seem, I mean, for all the radicals running, I'm so radical, I'm a trans person, really? Why does no one mention that they're loaning money at 30% interest and like half the country's enslaved by the credit card companies? No one ever, you're not allowed to say that. And when Donald Trump said that the other day, which you're absolutely not allowed to say, he's like, well, maybe we should just, I don't know, cap the interest at 10% at some point, because we used to put members of the Genovese family in prison for loan sharking at the rates that the credit card companies are charging. But you're not allowed to say that because you're like a socialist or something. That's sick. And I guess I even feel guilty just having grown up in a world where like to criticize a credit card company was like blasphemy. But I guess if you were thinking about what's best for people or flip it around what's really bad for them, being deeply in debt to a bank is not freedom, it's slavery. And people who are getting rich from slavery are bad people. And I don't know why you can't say that. And when Trump said that, and maybe who knows, I'm sure AEI and all the other supposedly conservative think tanks in DC are like frantically issuing white papers paid for by the credit card companies to tell you that he's actually Hugo Chavez for noticing. But it's still true. It's still true. And if you were actually counterculture and in a world where the culture is really dark and anti-human, you should be, then you'd be saying stuff like that. You wouldn't be flacking for BlackRock and Boeing, and you wouldn't be psyched when Dick Cheney endorses your pathetic status campaign. And so like, I don't know, I'm hoping for a revival of a counterculture a little bit.
Conservatives are the only real outlaws still left in the United States of America. We're the real outlaws.
So, sorry. And by the way, I'm not a socialist. 30% on a credit card? Why is that not embarrassing? If I lit a Marlboro in a restaurant, I'd be arrested. But if you get rich charging 30% on a credit card to poor people, everyone's like, oh, that's so great. It's not great, it's disgusting, and you should be ashamed.
I've got a lot of friends that are Democrats in the entertainment industry that are, big time liberal guys. Bernie Sanders liberal, that are friends of mine. Comedians I know you know a lot of them. Singers, songwriters, people like that. And they see how bad things are getting in the country, and they'll call me up on the phone, sometimes even come over to the house and want to sit down and talk to me. They're so upset about what they see going on, but they just can't get themselves to think about voting for Donald Trump. And so they asked me, how do I get over this, man? Because I just don't like the guy. I just don't like him. And so my answer has been this, and I think this is an important thing for people to hear, because I'm sure everybody in here has family members that have that feeling, and neighbors and friends and maybe even kids, right? We all know a bunch of them. So here was my answer to them. The system is evil, and the system is trying to murder Donald Trump. So who does that make Donald Trump? That makes him the enemy of the wicked. So it doesn't matter if you like everything about him, they hate him and they're wicked. So that should be enough for you to understand he's your guy. It's a logical thing to come to a conclusion, I believe. That's how I've been talking to people.
What do they say?
It's pretty simple, right? Well, they say, well, that's a good point. I go, no, that is the point. I said, Dick Cheney is a bad guy. Kamala's a bad girl. Lots of bad people all getting together from both sides of the aisle to try to take this guy out. That means he is not part of them. By default, he is not part of what they are for. I think it's a simple argument. Russell, dude, you talk like a thesaurus, man. I wish I could record it. I always learn new words when I hang out with Russell. Eighth grade was a long 4 years for me, I'll be honest. But, I write simple country songs. But I think that simple answers and logical conclusions will unravel the complexities of these people's minds when they are just tore up. They know things are going wrong and they don't like Trump. What do we do about it? I go, listen, the system is evil. The system is trying to murder him. What does that tell you about him? He's the enemy of evil in our country right now.
Can I say one thing about Trump? If Trump did no other thing throughout his life but drive Dick Cheney to the Kamala Harris campaign, that would be enough. And I just want to apologize. I want to admit that I spent years defending Dick Cheney, that I was wrong, and that a lot of people I liked and respect defended Dick Cheney. It's not even about Dick Cheney the man, it's about the worship of violence for profit, which is totally immoral, it's totally wrong, and a lot of us were cowed into pretending it wasn't wrong. It is wrong, and we're not allowed to kill people except in self-defense. That's true, that's always true. And we can argue about what self-defense is, but if you find yourself killing people because you're making money from it, that is murder, and we should never defend it. And I don't care what party is doing it. I don't care what they tell you about their motives. That's totally wrong. And I feel ashamed for the countless times, and you can look them up on freaking YouTube, which exists just to shame me. But the many times when I defended that, and I do feel shame for that, and I'm really sorry I did. But thanks to Trump, intentionally or not, now we see the clear outline. At this point, 21 years after the Iraq War, if you're on Dick Cheney's side, you have no excuse, actually, period. And now he's with her, and we got, I don't know, Bobby Kennedy and Russell Brand. I think it's a pretty good trade. You were kind of onto the Dick Cheney thing early. How'd you know?
Well, I thought he came across as a bit evil.
He did come across as a bit evil, you're right.
And when anti-establishment then, when I was just trying to pass my time, bide my time quietly as a heroin addict, was that when people went to war on false pretenses, and it was clear that it was to some degree a corporate endeavor, and you'll notice that the British have never been guilty of colonizing a planet. Seems that that lineage has been able to snake its way in a serpentine coil. Either side of the aisle, the beast is lithe, the beast moves easily through the institutions. The beast is observable when you see its eyes and when you see its flickering tongue and the dark liquid spittle beneath the ground that it forever plunders and pummels. The black gold of oil. Ah, Cheney mining onwards. It was good. Look, I'm still angry when he said that I sound like a thesaurus, and you lot laughed. Now that was hurtful. I've come here from Great Britain. I'm trying my hardest.
Can you do something for me? Can you just say, I just want Russell to do this for me, just for my own entertainment. Can you say, to be or not to be? That is the question. I got to hear it in a Russell Brand fashion.
To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against them.
Here we go.
And by opposing, end them. Yeah, I used to know a lot more Shakespeare, John, but then I started hanging out with Republicans. In a crazy attempt to avert Armageddon.
I've noticed that people who are against war now are fascists.
Yes.
How does that work?
If you're pro-free speech, pro-health, particularly the health of children, if you're pro-opposing globalism, corporatism, the excesses of big pharma, the exploitation, an evident and obvious lie that took place on a global scale during the pandemic, the shaming, blaming, condemning, and interning of people across the world, potentially the poisoning of hundreds of millions of people, if you oppose this, if you oppose the machineries that facilitated it, advocated for it, that were quite willing to condemn people of all hues, colors, cultures, and persuasions, call people the vilest names, condemn them as racists or worse, simply for opposing the excessive force of a state that's supposed to exist entirely in your service. During this time, yes, this was a large part of my awakening. If you can't hear the sirens then, if you can't see that that is a call, a clarion call, a harbinger, if you can't see that that is the moment where the skies are darkening, bruised, if you can't hear the trumpets then hear them now. For surely something large is upon us. Surely some slouching beast is coming towards us, awaiting to be born, unless we can oppose it duly. What I'm trying to tell you is that I'm not a regular Trump voter kind of guy. I'm not allowed to vote at all, actually, because I'm from England. Although, maybe.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.